From January 1st, 1989 until June 5th, 2013, Kim Harrison served our Connecticut Conference as the Public Policy Advocate, Legislative Advocate. Kim's efforts as the Connecticut Conference lobbyist has made an enormous positive difference in the state for these past 24 years. In over 2 decades of work in state capitol and legislative office building, Kim has brought great passion and skill to her task, persuading lawmakers to heed the moral guidance of UCC Voices. Conference resolutions have addressed many of the social justice issues of our time, including reproductive rights, same-gender marriage, the income tax, and gambling. Last April, the conference celebrated the attainment of a nearly 40-year-old goal when the General Assembly approved and Governor Donald P. Malloy signed a bill ending capital punishment in the state of Connecticut. Throughout her tenure, she has kept a watchful eye on how state spending decisions affect the most vulnerable citizens. In recent years, this has been very difficult as elected officials have struggled with revenue shortfalls due to the sluggish economy. Harrison has worked diligently to prevent the burden from falling most heavily on those who suffer the most. Kim holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in Political Science and a Master of Public Affairs from the University of Connecticut. She now is the Vice President of Public Policy and Government Affairs with the Hartford Healthcare System Incorporated, which provides medical services in Central and Northeast Connecticut. The Connecticut chapter of the National Organization for Women recognized her work on social justice issues by awarding her the Harriet Tubman Award. The Connecticut Conference is one of the few able to employ a professional legislative lobbyist in its state house. The national setting of our United Church of Christ has a small staff in our nation's capital, and we will be conducting a search for Kim's successor. I'd like to now call on David Taylor for a few remarks.
A little history. For over 200 years, the Missionary Society of Connecticut has been on the forefront of justice issues in the state of Connecticut. Early on in our history, those issues with the abolition of slavery, equal rights for women. And over these 200 years, the gathered body, you all, of the Connecticut Conference of the United Church of Christ, has given voice to God's justice for all people, with countless resolutions and pronouncements. These prophetic statements have hopefully moved the individual members of our churches to become more involved in establishing a more just society in our state. But then in 1989, an unrestricted bequest to the Missionary Society from a Stafford Springs furniture maker enabled the conference to make a conscious decision to more profoundly demonstrate a preferential option for the poor. The conference decided to endow a ministry for until it changes that decision, a ministry of policy advocacy, which would enable our congregations to put their money where their mouth is, with all these resolutions through the years, and then to engage the members in the pews to more proactively advocate in the halls of the Capitol and the Legislative Office Building for the issues and values that we have spoken so eloquently on. Now, to be perfectly honest, this ministry of policy advocacy was not established just to be a witness at the state capitol. Witness is important, don't get me wrong, but changing laws, changing policy was our goal. Otherwise, lives are not changed, People's situations remain the same, and injustice continues. With success as our goal, we put together a network that included many of you, a peace and justice network of activists. We hired a justice and peace organizer, Elizabeth Horton Sheff, a telephone network mobilizer, Robin Tierney, and in the office we had Barbara Napolitano. But to make all of this work, we needed a policy advocate, a lobbyist, who would be our voice, but more importantly, a mover and a shaker at the state capitol and in the office building at the legislature. And so we hired Kim Harrison. We never looked back. And in Kim Harrison, we found a tireless crusader, a prophet, a humorist, and yes, an arm twister for God's justice. The conference has been truly blessed by Kim. The cause of justice for all of God's children has been blessed by Kim. By no means have we won, as Ken has said, every vote or won every cause. But some victories came after years of defeat. I close with a story about one of those defeats. It was in the early 1990s, I believe. The cause was civil rights for gay and lesbian persons, and it played itself out in our state assembly over many years with many defeats. It was after one of those defeats in the long underground corridor leading from the Capitol to the legislative office building, as the legislators walked back to their offices after the vote, members of the gay and lesbian community lined both sides of the corridor, bowed their heads in somber and sad silence, mourning the defeat. But then, as Kim was quietly walking through that same corridor, also saddened by the defeat, someone in the line of protesters noticed who it was. It was Kim Harrison, your lobbyist. Kim Harrison, who had worked long hours to change votes to get this civil rights legislation passed. Victory would, of course, come years later, but that day, in recognition of Kim's tireless efforts, one by one, the heads of the protesters were raised in respect for Kim, and yes, in respect for the United Church of Christ. And now I ask you to do what the protesters then did to show their love and affection for Kim. They began to applaud as she walked through.
Well, thank you. It has been a blessing for me to work on behalf of all of you people on issues that are near and dear to my heart. And I'm going to miss working on some of these issues, but I felt that after 24 years and about helping abolish the death penalty, it was important to leave on a really high note. And it was time for me to move on and to do some other things. And I look forward to who will replace me in this role, because I think that they will bring a new energy and a new freshness. And as I think about what I will miss most, I will of course miss the issues that you all care deeply about, but I will miss the people who actually, it's been 24 years, and you all should, I'm surprised you're not all jumping up and saying, my goodness, you couldn't possibly be that old. But I started when I was under 30, and now I'm over 50. And so many of you that are even here tonight have been my mentors, people that I admire so much, who have such spirit and have such faith. And many of them are here tonight. And I just want to mention a couple of them, although you always leave people out. But I want to mention people that have been important in my own spiritual. Yes, I do have some spiritual development there. I can see those people in the back doubting that. By the way, I didn't realize, no wonder they all look so tall. Do you? There's like 6-8 inch little bench here. This is quite impressive. Anyway, I'd like to just shout out a couple of names of people who've been very, very important to me here in the UCC. Some of them are no longer with us. Reverend Richard Barnett, Beth Karsten, and people who are here tonight that I see in the room, Allie Perry, Feidi Lane and Bob Lane, who isn't here, but I also see George Easton. I see Barbara Libby. I see Deb Blood, Kathy Peters, people who have made a huge difference in my spiritual development. And I'm not leaving you out either, Jane Hawken, hiding in the back. But probably the person that has most influenced me in my years and has really set me on the right path, and this will probably scare him, is David Taylor. And working for him was an absolute wonderful opportunity. And sadly, he left about 7 years after I had begun. But we remained very close, and I looked to him for all sorts of guidance. But it has been a pleasure to have been able to serve all of you and to work on issues that are truly, truly important. So I thank you for that opportunity, and I wish you good luck this weekend.
So, Kim, on behalf of the Connecticut Conference of the United Church of Christ, we present to you this plaque that says these words: Kim Harrison, for your work these past 24 years as the legislative advocate, we offer our thanks and high praise. You have advocated on behalf of the concerns of the conference, standing for our commitment to justice and equality for all of God's children. You have informed, guided, and equipped our voice as people of faith and taught us about the importance of speaking up and working for the common good. We are grateful for your intelligence, your quick wit, your ability to use the power of persuasion, and your persistence to advocate for a more just society. Thank you for your dedicated work on our behalf. We wish God's deepest blessings upon you.